Hello, adventurer. It's good to see you. You have made it to the morning grind.
Welcome, welcome.
It's the live stream at the beginning of the Geekverse, where we talk about all types of topics in geekdom, gaming, and fantasy, with an emphasis on being constructive and creating the things that we want to exist in the world.
It's all on the grind, Sizemore. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of adventures to be had today. Dungeons to explore and monsters to slay, and who knows what a random encounter might send our way. That's why we have to prepare, so settle in now for the morning grind with your favorite beverage in hand.
Tea? Or maybe something a little stronger. I've got a few bottles of the old Wynyard left.
Whatever you want. Pull up a chair. If you're feeling fancy, how about a cappuccino? Or a frappuccino? Or how about an espresso?
Just tea, thank you.
Sounds good to me, Gandalf. Whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here.
Everyone is welcome. You can just watch if you want. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to worship.
Thank you, Mike. But be forewarned.
Sometimes we get really strange characters around here.
Wait, what's that you say? Why can't you come and be a part of the stream?
My wife would disown me.
Oh no, I bet she'll be fine with it. Come on in.
Am I scared for my safety? No.
What are we supposed to do?
Everybody do the secret handshake.
Secret cultist handshake.
Oh, now do wizards who love each other.
This, my friend, is a science.
I still don't have gifts, but it's fine.
It's all on the grind, son. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
Dude, this would be a sick place to bring the band.
Indeed it would be, Dave. It really would. I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome, glad to have you here. Oh look, here's someone new.
Is this the cultist meetup?
Yes it is.
Come to hang out? Please accept me. I have nothing else.
Okay, we accept you. Everyone's welcome here.
Brought some snacks.
Well, that makes things even better.
You want some coffee? I don't drink coffee. You sure? It's cultist coffee. What makes it cultist coffee? I'm a cultist and I'm drinking it. Oh. Then I'll have some.
What exactly is going on here?
I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. It's so great to have you. Oh, and look, here comes another stranger.
Can we help you?
Yes, fellow cultists. I could really use some food.
Oh yeah? Welcome. We have donuts.
Oh, it's me. I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you have a few questions for me, though.
What's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
Great questions, Rob.
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
No, not really. I'm just Heath, and I won't be worshiping anything this morning. But I will be your host. Welcome to the office. We're going to have a great time. I've got my coffee ready, because now it's time for the morning grind.
If you could become a fish, that would be amazing. Then I could command you with my mental fish powers.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. How are you today? I am feeling good. Last night was a lot of fun. We played Hero Quest on dinner and a board game, and we had both success in the kitchen and success at the gaming table last night. So two episodes ago, we had failure in the kitchen because we were unable to make dice-shaped Jell-O shots. So there was kitchen failure, and we wondered if that was portending the defeat at the gaming table as well. Well, last night we had success in the kitchen making dice-shaped Jell-O shots. And then we went into the Hero Quest Elf Pack and had success there. It was a great game. I had a great time playing that game, and I really appreciate everybody who was there last night. It was a lot of fun, but hey, you can always watch on replay too. So that was a great episode last night. So dinner and a board game, that was season 2, episode 7, I believe it was, for the Elf Quest 1. Let's see who all is here. It seems like we got lots of people here this morning. Sable Phoenix. Good morning, Vietnam. Good morning. Good morning, PH. Good to see you. Good to see you. Oh, morning. Taking a walk. Oh, awesome. I started talking again yesterday. I got completely out of the habit, and I got to get back in the physical habit. So that's good. So morning grind. Could go for a walk on the during the morning grind. That would be a good thing to do. Let's see. Well, what I'm talking about here, James says, good morning, James. Oh, good morning, Mike. James says, excited to see what problems have been solved. Well, what we're talking about is what problems I think this mechanic solves. I didn't really get to explain that yesterday. We got to the basic mechanic. And then why I think that's good and what that is doing. So why I basically think this mechanic is a good idea, what problems it is solving. Let's see. Good morning, D. Milton says, good morning. This is where the cultist meets up. Coldest meets. Have some orange juice. Orange juice works. That's great. Red Bull. Good morning. Good morning, Micah. Steel Mongoose. Good morning. All right. My kitchen is a board game profit. Well, maybe. The last Phoenix says, you mentioned playing board games online at the end. Still interested? You're talking about playing board games, yeah, online. I do want to play board games online. I want to see if I can bring. There might be some way that we can actually bring on other players and have other players at the table. So it could be solo play as well. But I was investigating. There was a specific device. Let's see. I think I'm on their Discord server, but I haven't gotten to experience Vorpal board. Does anybody know about Vorpal board? Let me look this up. The Vorpal board. I need to go to bring up the screen anyway. Vorpal board. It may be complicated. Okay, here we go. But it looks like something that could be used for dinner in a board game. This device right here. Game anywhere. Vorpal board makes it easy to reclaim game night no matter where your family and friends are. Play any game off your shelf using our combination of table streaming and component scanning technology. Invite anyone. Vorpal board couldn't be easier. All you need is a smartphone app and internet connection. Create a game and send a link to your remote players. Nothing to install right from your browser. And so it allows you, like this device over here allows you to scan cards and things like that. The player needs to draw a card and it needs to be hidden from other people or such things. You can scan it, scan it hidden from you and send it to that player and they get to construct a hand and things like this. So somebody's been working on technology for remote board game play. I don't know how it'll work, but I was looking at that. I haven't really gotten to dive into it. Has anybody used that or seen that? Let's see. So this afternoon, we're doing morning grind this morning, morning grind tomorrow, but this afternoon, I'm going to be on a stream with RM of Positive Fandom. Let me go ahead and put this over here in the chat. Today's stream, cultist stream. She is simultaneously broadcasting in two places. She's broadcasting, she's hosting this, the Burnett Network, or the Burnett Network is actually hosting this. So she streams with them and does some shows with them. So she's actually hosting this show on the Burnett Network. But this link I just put into you, this one is actually she's simultaneously streaming it to her own channel, which is the Positive Fandom channel. And so Positive Fandom, so I went ahead and gave you that link. So if you follow that link and it notify me or subscribe to the Positive Fandom channel, you can get there or the Burnett Network. We're going to be doing a live watch party of the cultists. And the cultists and of course, we're actually going to be able to show the cultists. I mean, this is why I've been telling people, hey, we should be able to do live watch parties of the cultists. Because watch parties generally kind of suck because you can't show the movie, right? Or the TV show or whatever. But here, I own the cultists, so we can just stream the cultists because it's my show. So this is my web show, my comedy web show about a group of modern-day Lovecraftian cultists who just want to worship Cthulhu in a world full of people who don't understand. And it's shot in mockumentary fashion, so it's like The Office and Parks and Rec. And so we're going to be watching the whole thing. I am the creator, producer, and co-writer of the show. And so I will be there to provide commentary as well as we watch. So that is today, and in 7 hours, I'll put a notification out on the Ravenkeep YouTube, Ravenkeep Discord server. You put a link there as well. About 15 minutes before we go live. So if you would like to join in, that would be fantastic. So if you haven't seen that, we're going to watch the entire first season, which is only an hour long, on live stream. I hope it does. It sounds interesting. It sounds interesting, and I just have not gotten to. I haven't gotten into it real deep. I asked some questions about streaming and how it integrates with streaming. Well, you see, we could do something like the tabletop simulator, but and maybe ultimately that's the way it has to go. But I still like the physicality at the moment. Good morning, Andrew. Milton says, the cultist is hilarious. I know people that actually do that sort of stuff. Some people will definitely see themselves in the cultists or people they know. Oh, Micah says, yeah, I have a Vorpal board, but never got a chance to use it. Interesting. I really want to know how well it works. Okay, so where am I with that? Okay, and then tomorrow I'm probably also going to do a creator's corner, because crafter's corner, because I've got stuff to paint. So I'm thinking about making tomorrow's crafter's corner. That would be tomorrow night. Editing together all of the videos that I did last year on analyzing dice and their mechanics, which ultimately led me to the mechanics that we're talking about today. And then just watching them all through. So if you didn't actually see all of the analysis of the bell curve and all of that and what led me to this, then I'm thinking about that we'll just watch all of that together and discuss it on Crafter's Corner tomorrow night. That's what I'm thinking. All right, let me take that down. And let me get up the extra camera here. Go. Auxiliary camera. All right. So what was I thinking here? Oh, let's swap this. So we went into what the mechanic was. I want to say what it is that I was working with for Faded Edge, and then I've got specific problems that it's solving, and why I think those problems are important. Once again, after a late night playing dinner and a board game, I don't feel like I'm quite on top of everything yet this morning. But all right, here we go. I don't have my other marker. Whatever, we got this marker. Things move around. Oh, here we go. Okay, so we said that the important things here appear to be, okay, large modifiers, small random element, and so I was really trying to stack up the static modifiers that your character is going to have. So this might be 0, and we said that 5 was something like an average human ability, and if you're trained in a skill, then you're proficient and trained in it, then you get another 5, so now you're up to 10, and then there may be other things that would add on, and we didn't get to all of that, but we got there. But then we said that you also have this other chunk of 5 right here. We called this your basic competence, whatever your basic competence in the skill is. And then when we get out here, this is called your normal expected competence right out here. And when you're not under pressure, you get to just add another 5. So this would get you out to 15 right here. Don't bother rolling. Just get yourself out to 5. But if you are under pressure, or you're in adventuring conditions, you do have to roll for this additional +5. And this is what is rolled for with edge dice. edge dice generate a number between 0, and it has to be 0 because I want your basic competence to be a floor. So it can't just be a 1. Otherwise, if it's a basic D6 and it goes 1 to 6, that would be nice, except for then your basic competence, you can always accomplish tasks that have a difficulty of your basic competence plus 1. And I don't want to do that. I want your floor to be the basic competence because that's what's on your character sheet. But what type of distribution should there be between what rolling a 0 and a 15? Originally I said, well, what I need is 1/2 of a bell curve, but actually we were able to generate a curve that's, well, it's not a curve, it's more of a step distribution, but I'll take it, perfect, it's doing the exact same thing as far as I'm concerned, so that you are more likely to generate a number that is close to your basic competence, and you're less likely to generate a number that is your normal expected competence while under pressure. So these edge dice are generating a 0 through 5, and we are doing that by taking the lowest of 2 dice that are generating a 0 to 5. And if you take the lowest of 2 dice that are generating a 0 to 5, you get this particular distribution that we looked at over here with any dice that I just drew over here. And then you've got it. Now, we haven't talked about modifiers yet, like situational modifiers or things like that might make individual situations more or less difficult. But that's what we came up with. And this is called the edge system because the game is most interesting when you're operating at the edge. At the edge of your ability. And so if you are designing, that's what this gap really is right here. This gap is operating at the edge of your abilities. I do want to know, am I getting too deep actually with trying to generate that particular distribution? It's possible that we could test it out with just rolling a 1 to 5 die, and that would give a flat probability between your basic competence and your normal expected competence. Maybe I'm overthinking it by trying to generate this particular curve in here, but we will see. We will see. So that's what the system is. Edge system, you're operating on the edge. This also kind of looks like a blade right here. So that's why this is the edge system. And here's when you're on the edge of your ability, and that seems to be the most interesting place where most interesting gameplay can take place. You could just do D6 minus 1. Yes, you can do D6 minus 1, or if you've got some dice that you can put some markers on, which who doesn't have a whole bunch of extra D6s, you could just put a 0 on, you just connect all of the pips of a 6 and make that into a 0. That's what I was planning on doing. I just hadn't done it yet for playtesting. So you could just convert the 6, if you got pipped dice, into a 0, and then no subtraction necessary. Okay, so what is this doing? So, and why do I think this is important? And somebody actually posted a comment that is directly relevant to this this morning. So this is what I wrote down all of the advantages that I've got here. But I don't know which order to do them in. So your DCs are over here. So you might have, if you like this, for instance, this right here is human average. We said. And then if this right here is your proficiency bonus, this would be human average ability. And then plus this is trained in a skill. So a human with average ability and professional training in car repair as a mechanic should be able to handle any kinds of problems like this, like up to a 10. All right. So that's what's going on there. So I guess this goes in no particular reason, no particular order. No particular order here. This is what this is doing, and this is why I think this is a good idea. This, separates DCs into 3 chunks. Automatic, when you're under pressure, automatic, impossible, at least without any other kind of modifier. We haven't talked about modifiers yet. Automatic, impossible, and possible. Right? So any DC beyond here, we're looking here, we got 10, 5, 15. If you're between 0 and 10, you got it. If it's above 15, you're either not going to get it or you're going to need some kind of special modifier. If you're in here, you're operating at the edge, and that's when you're talking about what's possible. So you get a very natural break in what is easy and what is therefore accomplished automatically, what is difficult and needs to be rolled for, and then what is flat impossible. So we're separating those into chunks. This allows for hard gating of, well, we'll just call them areas. Like if you're talking about dungeons or something like this. This allows for the hard gating of areas because you're the game master. If you're the game master designing this, this means that you know what your character's ability scores are, what they are trained in, and so what their skills or what their ultimate basic competence and normal expected competence is in a bunch of different areas. So it allows you to hard gate certain areas of a dungeon or any other kind of gate that you want to put into the game that's going to stop the players from getting to some other location. Because you know that they can't get higher. A random number isn't going to allow them to get higher than this. So if they've got to have a skill of whatever this way out here to open the gate, to like open, maybe it's a literal gate, to either knock down a gate, open the gate physically, or if it's locked, to actually unlock the gate. If you're trying to pick the lock, man, this is a very complicated lock. It's way out here. It is surpassing all of your players' abilities to pick the lock or deal with this issue. They're going to have to find a key. So this is the most basic way to gate something, right? So they're going to have to find the key. If you don't have this very strict way of dealing with what people's DCs are, and you're a lot more random in it, then it could be possible. It's much more difficult to gate certain areas because the randomness is so large. If you're rolling a D20, the randomness can be so large. You might say, hey, I've got a DC of 20. It's a DC of 20 to pick this lock. Well, if it's a DC of 20 to pick this lock or get over this whatever gate it is, then that's still a 5% chance. They may still be able to roll for it. And if you're intending to use that as a gate, then maybe they get through it. So you might adjust that by saying, well, gee, the basic bonus they've got is only +3. So somebody can only roll a 23. So this needs to be over here at 25. Okay, make this gate a 25 because now you can't get through it. But then once you've got characters who have +8 skill, +9 skill, they're still not very likely to get through it. There's a lot of randomness involved here. But once you reduce the amount of randomness here, you can set up gates for your hard areas and understand, like, to corral, and like this is the area, this is the level 1 zone, this is the level 2 zone, this is the level 3 zone. If you're doing something like dungeon design, it allows you to be much better at hard gating areas because not only do the players have a better understanding of their abilities, the game master has a better understanding of their abilities. James says, ever play World of Warcraft? It's like stat check raid boss. If you're not at a certain skills level in that case, defeating patchwork just isn't possible. I have played World of Warcraft, but it's been a long time ago. So I don't specifically remember that. I played it a lot with my brother, but that was years and years ago. So this allows for hard gating because the game master understands what the player's capabilities are. This also, and I think all of these are important, but this mechanically tells you when not to roll. because I think a lot of the RPGs are designed backwards in their language or written backwards in their language. Because the default, it seems, all the rules are telling you, if you want to accomplish some kind of task, roll these dice, right? And then add these modifiers and compare to this number or whatever it is. And then it does seem like there is a trend in game design to say, well, now you don't always have to roll dice. And maybe you shouldn't roll the dice if there isn't something that is critical that can be used up, if there's not some type of risk. We're all familiar with those type of paragraphs that go in. So it seems like, because we've read them quite a bit on all the different RPGs that we've read. So if you're designing, it's very common, it seems, for us to have read, here's all of our dice mechanics. But then also here is this one paragraph right here, which kind of hand waves when not to roll. So it's setting up the expectation that you would roll, but then let's hand wave when not to roll by saying, well, under these circumstances that are a bit vague, if there's not something that risk, blah, 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 then don't roll. That's fine. I'm trying to move in a more gamist direction. This is a bit more gamist kind of RPG design here. I would much rather have the system, the game mechanics, tell you when not to roll. I want the game, instead of having to make some type of kind of arbitrary choice about when is this particular difficulty of a task, a task of a particular difficulty, something that we really need to roll for, and when is it not? Rather than being arbitrary, I want the game to mechanically tell you when that's the case. So that's not rolling is not something that's kind of sits outside of the game to be adjudicated on a kind of an on-the-fly basis. It's something that's intimately tied into the game mechanics. And this is what this is doing right here. If this is your skill block right here, all the way up to 10, average human with professional training in some skill, then the game is telling you that anytime you encounter an obstacle that is within this block of difficulty, don't bother rolling. The game is actually telling you that. And it's telling you why. Because you are a average human with average ability, but you have professional training in that skill. That means you are competent enough to handle any problem that comes up with the DC in there. Do I need to roll? Do I need to roll? That isn't an arbitrary thing that the game master comes up with or needs to be talked about at the table. The game itself, the rules of the game itself is telling you not to roll. That's in there. Yeah, one of my biggest issues with most D&D games is that nat 20 on a skill check rule. It doesn't. Well, we're going to talk about what is impossible here. James says, I mean, I don't care what your acrobatic skill is. Rolling a natural 20 doesn't allow you to survive a 3,000-foot sheer drop off of a cliff. Actually, I think you're right. I was about to say that I think that the natural 20, that technically in 5e, but it changes with different games as well. But 5e is an automatic hit on a 20 in combat, but not necessarily success on a skill. But it seems like a lot of people play that way anyway. It seems like a lot of people do that. And in fact, I've seen that in the comment section, which is actually something I was about to bring up. Which is impossibility. Let me change this right up here. So this system also tells you what is impossible. Tells you what is impossible for, is that who or whom? For who? For who? What is impossible for who to accomplish? Because I was saying that you're talking about the nat 20. I've seen in the comment section on YouTube, not I believe in our live comments, but in some of the comments on just other YouTube videos. And even a couple of days ago, somebody said something like, I would say that's impossible to do, so could only be done on a natural 20. No, it's not wrong. People are welcome to play however they want, but that person has clearly a different definition of impossible than I have. Because if you say this is something that's impossible, I'll give you a 5% chance of it happening. That's a big chance. I mean, that's a big chance of having it happen. if I say that's impossible, I mean that it's not something that you can roll for. It is no, your random ability, the random modifier is not going to allow you to do that. And with this, I get an understanding exactly of what is impossible for who. So if I'm out here, and again, we haven't talked about situational modifiers, which are going to be important, but at the moment, the way this is set up, if you've got something that's out here that's at DC 20, so DC 20 is out here, this is telling me that for this character, this task is impossible. It might not be impossible for other characters, because we said that if you are near God level ability was 20. So Hercules would be able to handle that. Near God level, your ability level is 20. So don't worry. If you're average human, then you're never going to be able to do it. But if Hercules comes down to the dungeon, then Hercules has got it based on his just basic ability. So it tells me what is impossible for who, and it gives me also DCs to tell me about what is impossible for what is actually impossible. Because I believe we said that God ability level is 25 if you're statting gods. Now, I suppose there's also room for something that's unstatable as well. But if you're talking about something like the Greek gods or the Norse gods or something that you would want to give stats to that are in the game, they've got an ability of 25 and I believe grand mastery. If they've got grand mastery in their skill. So that was like Hephaestus. So Hephaestus with God abilities, grand master. If there's ever a grand master at smithing, it's Hephaestus. And then plus you get a +5 when they're not under pressure, when Hephaestus is just in his workshop working as he will. So that gives him an ability score or an effective ability of 50. I also like that 50. So that's giving you gods with grand mastery in their particular chosen area are able to have a skill level of 50 when working not under pressure. So there you go. Gods can accomplish DC up to 50. So that means that something that is impossible could be 55 or 60. Because like I said, there's a little bit of wiggle room for some other modifiers for situational modifiers we'll talk about later. But if it's 60, if the DC is 60, it doesn't matter if we get Zeus down here. That's actually impossible. So it actually tells you what is impossible. Oh, lots of stuff going over here. Nightmare says, this hard gating is enticing. I'm surprised this is the first time I've ever heard anything like that. I don't hear it talked about quite a bit. I don't hear about it talked quite. I hear about gating quite a bit, but the problem, like I said, with gating, if you've got a very large random element to your game, is it's very difficult to game design for those huge and actually make the gates meaningful if you've got this huge random element. Oh, I know the natural 20 rule is used by Critical Role with their skill checks to a limit. Really? Okay. So it seems like a common house rule. Well, Sable Phoenix says, I feel like if something is literally impossible, then it shouldn't have a DC at all. But it does give you an idea that, well, if it's got a DC of 45, then it's not impossible. If it's got a DC of 45, it's not impossible. It's just very difficult, and you're going to need extreme abilities to be able to accomplish it. Okay, so what is impossible for who? This also, so it also encourages adventure design at a certain level, which should be at the edge. because this is where the players get to show off over here, or all the way across here. This is where the players get to show off. This is what the players can't do. This is what the players can do when they're under stress, like in adventuring conditions, and there is some element of chance involved. So when you're planning out monsters, you're planning out, we may have exactly ACs, but we're talking about resistances. When we're talking about planning out the entire adventure for what kinds of monsters, what types of skill rolls should players have to be making, well, because you've got your characters, that you got your character sheets, you built them to certain levels. So this tells you exactly what is challenging for your heroes. If you put things over here, that's fine, because that's when your player gets to show off. If you're Hercules and some goblins show up, Hercules should be taking out some goblins pretty fast. Now, actually, Hercules' skills would be way out here. But you've got Hercules out here, and you want the players to be able to show off. Well, then we got some goblins here, and they're going to show off. And there's not going to be a chance that Hercules is accidentally going to kill himself on a critical failure while fighting a couple of goblins. No, Hercules is going to have those goblins in the bag. I'm wondering if that should be an informal term for over here. If this is your skill level, then any difficulty class over here, you've got it in the bag. You've already got it in the bag. Hercules would have those goblins in the bag. So that allows, like something like Pathfinder has very complicated, very sophisticated, we liked it, encounter design mechanics, right? Which we liked. I really appreciated having that. That was really good. I think it's something that's definitely lacking from 5th edition. Pathfinder has all of that, but this does allow you to look at things a bit more directly, because if you're the game master and you have a sense of what this window is right here, then most of your characters, will be struggling. It'll be exciting when if you're wanting to roll for things, they need to be operating in here someplace. Like I said, situational modifiers may take you over here a little bit. Negative modifiers may end up taking you over here a little bit. We'll talk about that later. But basically, you're looking for numbers right in this range. And then you're looking that's going to be challenging for the heroes, because not all heroes are going to have the exact same stats for all different things anyway. So there's going to be this window, basically, that your adventuring party has, and that's going to tell you where you should be designing most of your challenges. You can play a goblin that takes down Hercules. So how would a goblin take down Hercules? Well, first of all, now the obvious things you might say was the goblin needs stats like Hercules. So the goblin himself could go become like a demigod or something like that. But this is what I'm talking about if you are trying to make the player's decisions matter. So let's say that Hercules is the bad guy and you're playing the goblin and you got to take down Hercules. If you enter combat with Hercules in a fair fight, Hercules is going to kill you. Right? So if you are the goblin and you got to take down Hercules, if you just walk up to him and say the equivalent of "let's roll initiative," Hercules is going to have you in the bag. And that's kind of like the element from Amber. Okay, Hercules has got all of these things. You only got this down here. Hercules has got you in the bag. So you're going to have to come up with other ways to kill Hercules. If you really need to kill Hercules, you're going to have to come up with other ways to kill Hercules, like surprise him when he's asleep. I'm going to try to sneak up to Hercules. Hercules, if Hercules is bound, I've got to come up with some way to get Hercules bound. I've got to come up with some way to get Hercules trapped and then push something, or, drown him, or pour boiling oil on him or something like that. I mean, while he's trapped in some place, Hercules might have the disadvantage that, he's often drunkenness. So maybe when you got to get Hercules drunk, or maybe and actually spike the alcohol with some other type of poison that some other god has given you to make sure that it's extra effective against Hercules. Now there's some negative modifiers. Now you shoot him from a long way away with an arrow or something like that. So those are the kinds of things that I'm talking about. Your decisions as a player would then start to matter, because you've got to make those decisions and you got to stack up those advantages for yourself in order to take down Hercules. You can't just say, okay, I walk up to Hercules, let's roll initiative. Maybe my goblin rolls a natural 20 and I kill Hercules, because that's not going to happen. That's what I'm going for here. A demigob. Yeah, goblin. Yeah, no, we may not have. I'm not planning on having AC. But that would, like, you could say something like the lightning damage takes effect on the touch. Let's see. We never breathed and sipped. Uh-oh. Well, hang on. Let me pour some more drink here. And then let's breathe and sip. I was just about to need something else to drink anyway. All right, so let me drink. Let me pour another drink. Oh, it's time for a Yeti hug break. Yeti hug break. Yeti hug break. Everybody go hug yo Yeti and show yo Yeti some love. All right. All right, so got your drink with you. Let's take 2 deep breaths. This is the mental health portion of the show. It does help. It does help. Focus on your breathing for these 10 seconds during the day. Deep breaths, then complete exhales, and then take a sip of your favorite beverage. Here we go. I always feel better as soon as I do that. I always feel better as soon as I do that. It's instant. If you're not doing it, do it with us. Do it with us. I always feel better instantly. We need a Yeti emoji. I was actually thinking about that, especially for channel members. I thought about that, crossed my mind the other day. Need a Yeti emoji for channel members. I'll see if I can make one of those. Andrew says, these ideas seem good, but in most games, should players be around situations that are super easy or impossible? Aren't they generally set to the level of the players? Yes. So this is telling you what level this is telling you that range of DCs that are basically going to be challenging to your players. If the players increase their ability, this window's going to slide this way. Now, so like if you're in town, like if you're in town and you're doing basic easy stuff, then you're operating over here. Or, if the goblins show up, if you're kind of more competent heroes and the goblins show up to raid the town, they might not know you're there. And all of a sudden you're in a situation where the goblins are really easy. The goblins weren't expecting you. They charged forward. You were able to clean out these goblins pretty easily, but then you got to go hunt the goblins down in their lair. So that could be one way. Like, okay, you heroes got to show off with these goblins, but now we've established the threat of the goblins. But now you're going to go hunt down the goblins because we can't, the goblins ran away. Some of them you killed, the other ones ran away, etc. Now you're headed into their lair. And so that's going to be harder. So that might be how you set up an adventure. We opened up with goblins that attacked the village, but fortunately you heroes were there and were able to fend them off. But then now everybody says, no, but you've got to go actually take care of the goblins. You've got to go to their lair and defeat them and defeat their king or whatever. Well, now we're moving over here into the zone, which is operating at the edge of your abilities. And Micah says, sometimes the players put themselves into situations that they don't realize are easy or impossible until you tell them the DC. And I think that I've been thinking a lot about what was going on with Amber when Amber was saying there should be hidden knowledge. So it was working. It seemed, I didn't realize that was a component of that the first time I read that a long time ago. But that part of the way that Amber is working is that you're not supposed to know everybody's stats. So you may not, so if you don't really know how good a swordsman somebody else is. The only way that you'd know, that's why somebody was asking another character in that example, how good are you against Frank over there? Because I know how good I'm against Frank because I fought Frank. And now does Frank beat this person up or does this person get beaten up by Frank? So I've been thinking about that quite a bit too. So you might not really know the DC either. But then what Amber was having the person do, the game master do, was give the players in-universe warnings. This is impossible by having them take damage. So it wasn't a binary in that moment. It was something that like when they were fighting the swordsman that was superior to them, the game master was giving them clues. Andrew says, share a mug with your Migo. Oh, we might need that. Share a mug. I'm going to write that down. I have an entire song lyrics written for the Yeti. Hug for your Yeti. I might have to eventually make a YouTube video based on that. But also share a mug with your Migo. That's great. Sable Phoenix says, yes, just outright telling the DC is not terrible and immersive. You can portray something as simple or dangerous by description and narration. Even extra-dimensional horrors need to breathe and sip. Okay, so that's what I was talking about, adventure design right here. Okay, mechanical reasons not to roll the dice. We hit that one up. Okay, so the issue that I was trying to solve originally, the main issue. So it's done all these other things. I like this because it's also done a bunch of other things. I think I've mentioned that there was a song that I wrote, but I never like matched it up to music or made a video out of it. So the main problem I was trying to solve originally, so it does solve the main problem as well, but it does other things. The system does other things as well. So this gives, which was my main design goal, but it happens to have accomplished a lot of other design goals. It gives players a very firm, and I'm going to underline very firm. It gives you very firm and reliable. I'm going to underline reliable as well. A very firm and reliable understanding of their capabilities. That was my original design goal with this. Capabilities. That was the original design goal. And then all of these other things that happen to have happened have sprung from that as well. Because I wanted players to have a very firm and reliable understanding of their capabilities and what they can accomplish and what they cannot accomplish. So with this, you've got that. You've got a very firm and reliable skill block that tells you what you can do, and then things that you can do with some decreasing probability, and then what's outside of your current capabilities. Gives players a very firm and reliable understanding of their capabilities. Now, that comes up, this brings a comment that I just saw this morning. Let me find this comment from this morning. It was on one of the older videos on dice analysis. That's why I think maybe we should bring that up, because some of these people might not have, some of the people who are watching now might not have noticed, or might not have watched some of those, might not have watched some of those. And I need to rewatch it too. I need to rewatch what I was doing too. That now would be a good time for this. Okay, so here's the question that was, or the comment that was just posted 10 hours ago. So what do we think about this? Let's see what we think about this, because this is on the video 2d10 better than d20 for D&T. How much better? I was analyzing 2d10s. Is rolling 2d10 superior to d20 in D&D? A numerical analysis of the dice. And what I was trying to do in that video, so we'll may watch them all on Crafter's Corner, like I said, but I was trying to figure out what time. Oh, I don't have my auxiliary camera up, but I was trying to figure out what percentage of the time is the success determined by the die, and what percent of the time is success determined by your skill roll. And here's what the Forged Done says, or the Forged one. The Forged one. The Forged One says, I'm not sure why you're counting high rolls as bad. Now, I wasn't counting high rolls as bad. What I was saying, which is what have talked about here, is that let's say the DC is 15. Okay, if the DC is 15 and you're rolling a D20 and you have a +0 modifier, what percentage of the time is what percentage of the time is whether or not the task succeeds or fails in the hands of the dice? And that answer is 100%. And it's 100% for any arbitrary DC. It doesn't matter if the DC is 10. If the DC is 10 and you're rolling a D20 with +0, what percentage of the time is the success or failure of the task in the hands of the dice? 100%. Same way with DC 5. DC 5 +0, rolling D20 +0, 100% of the time, the dice are determining whether or not you succeed or fail. 100% of the time. That means this is a very random game. It's determined by dice. If you get a +1 modifier rolling a D20, then only 5% of the time has your character's skill said, no, you do succeed, right? Because if you get a +1 and it's a DC 15, there's only one number you can roll. 14. There's only one time where your character's skill overrides the dice and go, no. They still win. They are able to defeat that. Only 5% of the time, but still, all the other time, 95% of the time, you're not. You're still in the hands of the dice. Now, if the DC changes, which is what he's bringing up right here, if the DC changes, does that matter? Yes. If you're +0, you're 100% of the hands of the dice, whether you're DC 15, DC 10, or DC 5. But that doesn't mean that your chance of success is the same. No, sometimes the dice are more likely to give you a success if it's DC 5 than if it's DC 15. It's a coin flip if it's DC 10 or 11, technically, but a coin flip there. So I was not counting high rolls as bad, but what I was saying, even if you roll high, you are still in the hands of the dice. If you're trying to make a D20 +0 DC 15 check and you roll a 17, you did succeed. Congratulations. You succeeded on the task. Fantastic. You succeeded. But you still only succeeded because of the random roll of a die. So the reason I don't know if I use the word bad or not, but for some people's game design, that's perfectly fine. That may be exactly what they want. I'm not saying that it's bad, like inherently, but what I am saying is if you want a less random game, then you shouldn't just be relying on the dice rolls to tell you whether or not you succeed. So the Forgeman says, I'm not sure why you're counting high rolls as bad. I was counting as still high roll as something that occurred as the result of the random element, because it is. Yes, they would have succeeded without the modifier. But ultimately, doesn't the success and failure matter most? The modifier helps guarantee your success. I like the analysis, but I feel counting the high rolls as a bad thing is making a mountain out of an anthill. Practically speaking, the final success or failure of the character's action is what will be felt in the game. What do we think about that? So I understand this would be the argument against it. This would be the argument against it. I think what the Forged One is saying right here. But is that valid? Is that counter argument valid? Did I, in a sense, did I do too much over here by trying to come up with my edge system? Is it the case that all I really needed to do was take the D20 from 5e and drop all of the DCs by 5 or 7 or 8 or 10? Drop all. If the DCs were dropped, problem solved. Is that true? Let me see what people are saying in the comments. James says, okay, this is why looking at Amber was so important, because without any other influencing actions, the skill level of characters flatly determine the winners in the contest. Yes. All things being equal, in Amber always is the case. All things being equal, the person with the high skill level will always win. If you have less competence, then you're going to have to pull things like that goblin's going to have to pull to kill Hercules. you're going to really need to come up with some decisions. Yeah, make some decisions, which I'm trying to encourage players to make decisions. Make good decisions, come up with interesting things to do at the table. Don't rely on maybe I can roll the 20 as the goblin to kill Hercules, because it's not going to happen. James says, you want people to be able to train up to a specific level of competence and then allow the dice to decide only those actions they might succeed for at never having tried. Basically, yes. So if you... like if I'm an armorer and I only create cuirasses, I'll succeed. But if I want to create a buckler, I might be able to, but I'm not trained. Yeah. Now that depends on exactly what type of skills we're talking about. Like I'm anticipating, which could be determined by the particular game world that you're in. I would think that I'm kind of going with much broader skills. So armorer might be a skill. So so a buckler might actually be an easy kind of thing to make. A cuirass might be something that's more difficult to make. You need a higher armorer skill. But I love magic as crafting. So when I'm thinking about something like that, I'm also thinking about magic as crafting, like in the Lord of the Rings. Magic items are produced by craftsmen. They're not produced by wizards, so to speak. They're produced by high-level craftsmen like Feanor. That by being really good at being really good, you could have a game world where being a really good armorer allows you to create a magic weapon because you're able to imbue it with all kinds of things. So if you're a normal armorer of normal ability, you're not going to be able to create magic weapons. But then as you increase your armor ability, you're not going to accidentally create a magic weapon. I rolled high enough, there was an open-ended roll or whatever, and oh my God, look at this sword that came out of my armory. It's actually magic. But if you start to increase your skill level, and especially you start to increase skill level perhaps above human or ordinary abilities, now you're in like elven abilities in the Lord of the Rings. Yeah, sometimes when you come out of your workshop, it might be a regular thing for you to be producing items with magical properties. Micah says, right, you need some randomness for it to feel simulated versus too easy, but less randomness makes it easy to determine. The same thing is fixed when you raise the DC ceiling to 100 in 5e. It puts 66% higher than bounded accuracy. Let's see. We're about to talk about skill training here in a moment. So Micah says exactly what James Bacon said. That is also why D&D and most games allow you to try some skills you're not trained in, but someone else is more likely to do better. Okay, so here's my thought here on what the Forged one said. So he says the modifier helps. It doesn't. I mean, helps guarantee. The word helps guarantee your success, but depending on the ratio of the random number to the modifier, it might not actually be that much of a guarantee. You need to reverse it, like I've done over here. He says, but ultimately, doesn't the success and failure matter most? Well, yes. All right. Does it matter if you're trying to jump over a pit? Does it matter that you jumped over the pit because you rolled really well and were able to get over the pit, or because your character is sufficiently skilled that pit was not an obstacle? In both cases, you succeed, and in both cases, you are over the pit. So in that one instance, ultimately, wasn't it the fact that you're over the pit that mattered the most? Did it matter how you got over the pit, by the random roll because of your skill and competence? Well, in that one instance, it did not matter. Practically speaking, the final success or failure of the character's action is what will be felt in the game. So, but here's where I think this goes the other way. So this is the argument. This is why I don't accept the argument. The final success or failure of the character's action is what will be felt in the game. So what if we took the like opposite approach of the edge system, and we said the problem is not the relationship or the ratio between the random element and our modifiers, it's that our DCs are too high. And we talked about, for some reason, Dungeons & Dragons thinks that an easy thing should be a 50-50 roll. Well, it shouldn't be a 50-50 roll. That should be down at DC 5 or whatever. So we're going to lower the DC. We're going to drop the DC on all of this. And now I didn't have to do anything else, but now I've changed my degree of success. It's still a very random game, but my degree of success will be higher. Does that work? Because can you still fail easy tasks? And to me, the answer is absolutely yes. So if you get down to a DC 5, if you say DC 5, it's easy. It's DC 5. Okay. Well, if you are +0, you are still you're still completely in the hands of the dice. And if you roll a 1, 2, 3, or 4, you still fail. So can you fail an easy task? Yes, you can walk up. Hey, that's a very easy thing for me to do, and then fail it. Okay, I fail it. And then what can happen again? Your dice roll on your next turn does not have anything to do with the dice roll that you just had last time, right? If you think so, that's the gambler's fallacy, right? Oh man, I've rolled low, so now I should roll high. That's not true. These are independent occurrences, the roll of the die. So, all right, just because I was trying to accomplish something easy this time and I rolled a 3 and I failed, now my turn comes again, which in Dungeons and Dragons can take a while, especially in combat. Now I do it again and I roll a 2 and I fail again because the fact that I didn't learn, the dice didn't learn anything from last time that being easy. Because I have been in games, it seems like, or I remember the games where I'm always rolling low. Like this is the game where I'm always rolling low. And it feels like my character did absolutely nothing because every time my turn came around, I rolled a D20 and I got a 1, 2, 3, 4, a 7. If I'm trying to get up to 12, 8, like I rolled low. And there's only so many times you're rolling when your turn's coming around. And I rolled low. And so my character wasn't even able to accomplish easy things. So that completely felt that. I really felt that, man, I have failed basically everything that I have done. And it's not, they weren't even challenging things. They were things that, oh yeah, it's just a DC 10. Fail. And that's what I'm trying to prevent because, yeah, those games I remember and I really start to feel and I really start to get aggravated because the random element, there's nothing I can do to make this better, right? Because the game is based on a random element. And we talked about this when we talked this with Jeff Engelstein, people's perception of percentages. This came up. I was watching somebody else. This was just like 2 days ago or something like that. That was like saying, who was it? Fair fight. Oh, that might have been Mark. It might have been Mark Tassin when he was talking about, hey, if it's a fair fight, then it should be 50-50, right? If it's a fair fight, it's 50-50. But our psychology doesn't perceive it like that. If it's 60-40 in our favor, we start thinking that's about a fair fight. So, and Jeff and I talked about that when we were saying that if you just have random percentages and you just say, hey, we should just drop the DCs, and there is a 50-50 chance of accomplishing some task, we psychologically are not going to feel like it's a 50-50 chance. We're going to feel like it's weighted against us. So we're going to feel it. I like that he used this word felt. We're going to feel like it's against us. And Jeff was talking about if you got a 90% chance of something happening, we feel bad when it doesn't happen, right? So maybe you need to roll 3+. This is something you should be really good at. Roll 3+. Can you roll a 1 or a 2? Yes. All right. 3+, this happens. 1. All right. And you might be able to accept that once. You're like, all right. So I rolled 1. Can you fail again the next turn? Yes, you can. You can roll a 2 the next turn. And then you can roll a 1 again the next turn because the roll of the dice does not influence the roll of the dice you do next. So I'm trying to remove that feeling from the game. That's a feeling that I'm trying to remove. And I'm doing that because if you're just rolling the dice, then you do not have a very firm and reliable. Because even if you have a 90% chance, let's say you got that. Look, I got a 90% chance of accomplishing a task. Is that 90% very firm and reliable? No, it's not. Sable Phoenix says, that's why I like ICRPG, where if you fail something, you get advantage on it on the next turn. I don't remember that. I have to look at that. What if your maximum DC equals your attribute, and depending on if the character is under pressure or opposing someone, you lose the total number and has to roll a die. If lose more, roll a higher die. We did talk about that yesterday. I believe that was yesterday. That you could talk about different degrees of pressure and be potentially subtracting more from somebody's skill the more pressure they're under. I'm not sure I'm going that route because I've got other modifiers. So the edge dice just handle pressure. The nose plays. My brother and I were talking about this last night. The issue is the game results don't feel in line with what's happening with the narrative. Right. And so that is exactly. And I'm trying to fix that. If I am a great wizard, which like I have played, you're like a fifth, great wizard, but you're like a level 3, level 4, level 5 wizard, and you're trying to do easy things. I played the wizard where I can't even roll something that's easy. Every roll of mine fails. I can't even hit the goblin. By the time I'm a level 5 wizard and I'm trying to roll to cast a spell on the goblin, and I roll low, or the goblin makes the save or something like that. You're right. Micah says it is realistic that you might fail easy things due to in-character distractions, etc. I literally have boxes someone else put on a pallet open on the bottom because it was wet and then dried. However, an easy task should mean a delay or a consequence, not an utter failure. Well, in most TTRPGs, it's not supposed to be a fair fight. Heroes should gang up on a monster and hopefully survive. Well, or monsters gang up on the PCs. The goblins, like we talked about in 5th edition or Dungeons & Dragons in general, will often try to throw a whole bunch of dice at the PCs. Their threat is that they're throwing a whole bunch of dice at the PCs, and some of them are going to roll high. So you need a lot of goblins. One big issue, the nose play says, is the frequency of low or bad results, which are far too high for what we feel is narratively correct. The best way to fix this is to reduce the chance of bad results probability while maybe increasing the odds of good results and great results. So there's also one other thing that this does. And the other thing that this system does, it resolves. And we actually had addressed that yesterday, and I think we were just about addressed it again here, or it came up again, is that this solves the unskilled roll problem. Solves the unskilled roll. So we have something that's kind of inelegant to me in some RPGs. That in some RPGs we've got, and we talked about this, we have categories of skills. Well, here are some skills that you can still, even if you're not trained in them, you can still attempt to make a roll, and other things that no, you've got to be trained at all in order to accomplish this roll. And we have a little bit of inelegance in the system right there. Why? So the question is, why would we make an unskilled roll? Now, remember, in this system that I've got right here, we're doing ability plus skill. My basic competence is my ability plus skill. But if you don't have the skill, then it's just your ability. So this is assuming, human average ability in trained at a professional level and being a car mechanic. But if you do not have an associated skill, then you just use your ability. So all actions run through ability. All actions run through ability. And then if you happen to be proficient in a relevant skill, then you also add skill. So but let me ask in general, that's how this system was set up. But why roll a unskilled check? I mean, why would we want to do that anyway? And I think that often is the case because the random element is so high. It's often because in many games, the random element is so influential? Well, I'm not skilled. This is a DC 18 check or something like that, and I'm not very good at this. And I've got, or maybe I've got no modifier again. I got no modifier, but I might roll 18, 19, or 20. So there's a 15% chance that I might still pull this off because of how large the random element is. This is the player who's saying, "Can I please roll? Can I please roll?" You're not skilled at this. If you're not skilled at this, but it has a DC of 18, so I've got a +1. Excuse me, I got a +0 to my roll. I'm not skilled in this at all. I've got no related abilities. It's DC 18. Can I please roll? Or if it's DC 20, can I please roll? Can I please roll? Because there might be a chance that I can do it. And again, I've been kind of against that. I've been saying that some things you just can't do. But the reason it seems to make sense to, oh, can you please just let me roll? Can you please just let me roll? Is because the random element is so high. Once you reduce the random element of the game starts adjudicating this for you, which I really like. The game mechanics are solving this. Just like the game mechanics were solving when not to roll, when I was not throwing this to something that is arbitrary on the part of the game master. When should you roll and when should you not? This game system is mechanically telling you when you should not roll. This game mechanic is right here telling you when you cannot do something because you do not have enough skill. So let's talk about something like swimming. Classic example. Someone who has no training in swimming whatsoever. Let's say they are up here. Classic, here is our adventurer up here. They are falling down a cliff, and then down here at the bottom is some water, and then here is some rocks over here that they might be able to climb out of. But here's all of our water over here. And so someone is going to push the hero, and the hero is going to fall into the water. You're wearing armor and everything else. You're wearing armor and everything else, and you got pushed into this. And you have absolutely no swimming skill at all. So swimming skill, you have none at all. You have no ability to swim. Can this person get out of this situation? So how do we know? Well, if there's a large random element, that person will want to roll for it, right? What is our roll for it? And maybe I roll a 20 and maybe I get out of here. But what we just need to know, we'll ignore the falling damage here, but we need to know the DC to swim in this water. Is this very calm water? Is it very shallow water? Is it very rough water? Is it raging currents that are going down through a tunnel? Is it all of that? We got to know that. And then when the game master sets the DC, well, if the person is not sufficient in swimming, if the game master is setting this up to be a challenge that, yeah, people who are average in ability will be able to do this if they are under pressure. Then maybe DC 10. So this would be a DC 10. That would still be a very difficult roll to make, but you could say it's DC 10. If it's DC 5, because remember, so 5, if you say your average ability, so this is like Dex or something like that, that's human average. Now, maybe your adventurer is higher than that. And I get 0 bonus for skill. No skill. That means in situations where I am not under pressure, I got 5 in the bag. So maybe this is a DC 5 swim check. So let's say this is a DC 5 swim check. So that if you are not under pressure, and you're over here and you want to swim over here, well, then you got it. No problem. But all of a sudden, if you fall off, now you're all of a sudden fighting for your life. Well, now that becomes impossible to do, or nearly so impossible to do. If it's a 15 DC check, then you know that that's somebody who is going to have to be proficient in swimming in order someone has to be proficient in swimming in order to make that roll at all. Otherwise, that person's going to die. Maybe I didn't explain that perfectly well. But by adjusting the DCs, See, I guess the problem is like in that situation where if the DC is 18, back in a classic D20 situation, if the DC is 18 and you've got a +0 to swim skill, like you're +0, you have no experience swimming, you still want to roll the dice because there's some chance that you'll be able to get out. We do seem like we want there to be some things that cannot be done if you're not proficient in it. But by adjusting the DC, you are controlling what people who are not proficient in the skill can do because you're putting it beyond their reach. That's what's happening. The DC is putting that task beyond somebody's reach who is not skilled in that. So if you have no skill in swimming and you fall into the DC 20 lake or raging waters, well, then you're done for. The system with its DC situation, with its DC mechanics, the system has told you, don't bother rolling. You can't do it because you're not skilled. Let's see. The Last Phoenix says, well, for some things like knowledge, that might work on a small chance that person has encountered relevant information during their lifetime. But for any practical skill, that's a bit. I'm against knowledge checks. I solve that by not having knowledge checks. Mike says that wouldn't be a case of ability to swim in the armor, more of how fast you can get out of it. Rocks don't swim well at all. Yeah, so actually in this case, if you're wearing armor, those would be negative penalties. Those would be situational modifiers. The Last thing says, roll charisma. If you roll a 20, then a beautiful mermaid spots you and helps you swim. Mike says, by nature, most people don't want to say no, and most people don't like to hear no. As a GM, you just have to learn to say no. And maybe that's why things like the natural 20 roll are often house ruled, even for things like skill checks, because somebody says, I just want to try it. Can I just try it? And you don't really want to say no, and you don't want to hear no. So let's put this in the hands of the dice. If I can roll a 20, then it happens, right? Micah says, I say no, they try, I still say no. Let's see, we got a few more minutes here. Let's talk about modifiers. But those things are the things that I think has happened as a result of this system that I really like. So I'm pleased with this, and I'm very excited to continue to work with it more. But let's talk about situational modifiers. Let me bring up the document. Oh, wait, it's not this document. Let's stop screen sharing. And now start screen sharing again. Andrew says, who doesn't want to be in a world where the impossible is possible? That's the magic we all want. Okay, so that all had sprung from right here, because we were determining whether or not the action is
under pressure. Under pressure.
So we were determining whether that was the case, and if they are, then they must roll the edge dice to generate that number between 0 and 5. If they're not, then I just gave them the automatic 5. The player and GM determines if there are any situations. So 6 after that. The player and the GMs determine if there are any situations, conditions, circumstances, or traits that make this attempt at action easier or harder. When not under pressure, the positive and negative circumstances provide 2 or -2 respectively. Oh, in adventuring conditions. So this is old terminology here. When under pressure, so once again, if you're not under pressure, you just get bonuses or take penalties. 2, or -2. When under pressure, a bonus die generating a result between 0 and 2. And I've also been thinking about this in terms of 0 and 3. So it could be 0, but I think 0 and 2 is better. Or a penalty die generating between 0 and -2 will be rolled for each positive or negative circumstance, respectively. No more than 3 positive or negative circumstances may be applied to a single check. Other positive and negative situations are disregarded. The results are added to the check. So I'm also going to need to have bonus and penalty dice. Now, actually, there's a way to do this as well with cards, and I'm thinking that I might actually develop a card deck called the Oracle card deck that also has this. You can play with dice or you can play with cards. So why am I doing it this way? This is actually kind of inspired by Cortex. This is kind of inspired by Cortex because I want an easy way to adjudicate whether or not we have some kind of situational modifier, which is going to make something easier or harder. So the DC, or the target number, is something that's intrinsic to the task you're trying to accomplish. But then there may be circumstances in this particular case that are going to make things easier or harder for you. Okay, and so these are going to be done with the bonus or penalty dice, and we need and they have between 0 and 2, and we also have a limit on the amount of negative modifiers or positive modifiers that you can have. At the moment, I said 3 positive or negative modifiers to your task, and that's it, because I want this to go very reasonably quickly at the table. You know, one of the things that from long ago, like in AD&D, hey, I got to sit here and I got to add up all of my different +1s. My +1 for this, let me check for a +1 for that. Could we get a +1 for that? Over here, this is a +2. And no, hold on, let me check to see if I get this bonus over here. Okay, we're spending a lot of time at the table trying to make sure that we're adding up a whole bunch of different +1s. Now, Pathfinder might be like that because everybody talks about every +1 matters in Pathfinder. So, and there's no limit to that. Let me check on this. Let me look over here. I'm trying to put a limit on it because I want this to go quickly. I want the game master and the players to be able to look at the table, basically what's on the table. And if there are up to 3 reasons that the situation could be easier, or up to 3 reasons why the situation could be harder, once you get to 3, stop. Roll the dice. Adjudicate the action. Don't continue to argue for maybe there's another one. Let me see if there's, it's like we got 3 situations. The reason I also have a 0 on the die, what is my distribution? I've been working with different distributions on these dice. So I haven't finalized that distribution yet. I've been looking at, through any dice, I've been looking at outputs of like a 6-sided dice that is 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2. Or also, I was looking at it as a 3. But I think right now I was looking at the bonus or penalty die being 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, or 0, 0, -1, -1, -2, -2. So there's a 1/3 chance that's adding any one of those numbers. Let's see. Messed up my window. Here we go. So that's what's happening here. So why is 0 important? 0 is on there. Now, it could be that it needs to be, I think I was also looking at like 0, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2. That would make 0. That would put 0 on there, but there's only a 1 in 6 chances of 0, 2 in 6 chances of a 2, but then a lot of chances of a 1. So I've still got to play with that. But the reason I think 0 needs to be on there is because, again, to facilitate faster gameplay. Because we are looking at that make it, whether or not that could possibly make, and in fact, this needs to adjust this phraseology right here, because this is the quick kind of play guide here. But whether there are traits that make this attempt that would possibly make this attempt at the action easier or harder. It only has to be possible for some kind of circumstance to make it easier or harder. So if the player is arguing for the GM, now wait a minute, I've got this. Wouldn't this make this particular role easier? The game master doesn't doesn't have to adjudicate exactly yes or no. No, there is no way that would help you. Or yes, that would definitely help you. The player is putting this forward as, isn't it possible? And if the game master agrees that it's possible, then go ahead and include the positive die, the bonus die. Likewise, if the game master says, now, wait a minute, we got this over here that could make this roll harder. So that's going to be harder for you. The player is more likely to accept that because it's only possible that it's making it harder. If you take the negative die, the penalty die, it may not actually make things harder because you may still roll a 0. That's right. So that's, again, faster adjudication. There's only so much the player needs to complain because it's only saying that, well, it's possible. Okay, it's possible because I might still roll a 0. And then it actually didn't influence in this particular circumstance. So the 0 is there to make adjudication faster because we are saying that it's possible that this element could make this task easier or more difficult, not that it definitely will. Because if you're adding static modifiers, -1, +1, +2, -3, then you are saying it's more difficult. So this is being more generous. So you only have to look for 3. Once you get to 3, stop. Other potential, these results are added back. Bonus and penalty dice cancel each other out at the dice level. For example, if you've got one negative circumstance and one positive circumstance, rolling neither a bonus or a penalty die. Therefore, you will never roll bonus and penalty dice at the same time. So you're canceling out faster, keep from having to add up a whole bunch of stuff. You're canceling at the dice level. And does this potentially make things easier or harder? It's only potentially. So the thing that I wish that I had was this to be another stack of 5. This is a stack of 6. Abilities tend to go in 5. Skills tend to go in 5. Your not under pressure bonus is a stack of 5. Your edge dice generate in a stack of 5. It would be really nice if the bonus or penalty dice also generated in a stack of 5, but they generate in a stack of potentially 6 because if you have 3 positive dice and you roll 2 on each one of them, you've got 6 instead of 5. But I think that still works. I think it still basically works. So in non-adventuring, or should be when not under pressure. When not under pressure. So this is a check, but you're not rolling dice. This is a check, but you're not rolling dice. When not under pressure, if the character's normal expected competence plus or minus any situational modifiers is equal to or more than the action's target, the action is successful. In adventuring conditions, or when you are under pressure, if the character's base competence plus the roll of the edge dice plus or minus the rolls of any bonus or penalty dice equals or exceeds the action's target number, the action is successful. Successful actions, this goes back to the very beginning. Successful actions bring about the desired outcome. Now, we're going to have to add something in about partial success. But generally speaking, this is the basic mechanic. Successful actions bring about the desired outcome. Otherwise, the action fails. The desired outcome does not occur, and the character may suffer consequences. Because I said very explicitly up here in the very beginning, what is an action? What are we trying to adjudicate? Why are we going to all this trouble anyway? We are trying to adjudicate whether some particular outcome the character is trying to bring about has occurred with understanding how the player is attempting to bring it about. A correctly specified action must include the outcome the player is trying to bring about and how the character will attempt to bring it about. And then you resolve that to determine that using the following procedure we just went through. Success brings about the desired outcome. So you don't have to wonder what the dice roll means. Right? You don't have to wonder. Well, let me see. Just give me a insight check. Give me a perception check. Well, now what does that mean? We're not doing that. Because the dice are rolled when somebody's taking an action, which means they are trying to bring about some desired outcome in a particular way. If you roll successful, then we know exactly what that means, because we're only rolling dice when we're trying to bring out an outcome, and the outcome would be uncertain. If it's successful, then the desired outcome is brought about. We're going to talk about partial success later, because I think you have to have partial success, because if your action is I kill the orc with my sword, it seems like we have to have partial success because it seems pretty common and people will probably want, you were only partially successful at killing that orc. So you didn't not do it, but you were only partially successful at it. That's hit points, right? That's hit points in Dungeons and Dragons. So that goes through all of this. That's my basic action resolution mechanic and my reasoning for creating it. Let's see what people are saying over here in the comments. Andrew says, not all pressure is threat of imminent physical harm. Maybe a cute adventurer joins your party and you're distracted. Maybe your cleric is questioning their faith. Maybe they just get the yips, or maybe those are also situations where you could apply that potentially negative modifiers. The cute cleric has joined. The cute adventurer has joined. So you're distracted. Pathfinder 2 actually have only 2 or 3 bonus types. They got tired of it too. I still love my Pathfinder 1 long roster of bonuses, though. Oh, so Pathfinder 1 has the longer roster of bonuses. Or terrain, or I was wondering what this. So, what about using the terrain or condition die, depending if the character is in a difficult terrain, or if he's put himself in an advantageous position? Is this what you're doing? Yeah. That's right. So, like, if you perhaps flanking somebody, you put yourself in an advantageous position. You're flanking someone, so you get bonus dice. Take a bonus die for that. There might be other situations to come up, but this is the basic explanation. This is the basic way that was going and why. All right. Well, that goes through that. I've still got a lot of writing to do. I've got writing to do on world books. I've got writing to do on world books. I got writing to do on game systems. I got writing to do on stories. I got so much writing to do. So I'm going to work on that. But this afternoon, please do remember this afternoon that I will be live online with RM. Let me give you that link right here. I'll put out to the Ravenkeep Discord server. So if you're just coming in or if you're just finding us, I will put out a notification 15 minutes before we're live. I would love to have you join us for the cultists. I love the cultists. I'm very proud of what we created. I would love to have you join us. So join the Discord server, and then right here at this YouTube link, that's where, if you also want to hit that and hit notify me on that, I'll be live. I believe that is 5 o'clock Central Time. So my time, this is 5 o'clock it's saying. So 5 o'clock. In 5 hours, then I will be live. Or actually, it's about more like 6 hours. I guess YouTube's rounding up here. So at about 5 hours, 5 to 6 hours, 5 o'clock p.m. Central Time, I will be live. We'll be doing a live watch party for the cultists, and we'll be having a good time. I'm really looking forward to this. So I hope to see you there. I hope everybody's enjoyed this. Thank you so much for being here with me this morning. Go on today, be creative, be constructive, and grind on. Later, everybody.